Okay, so welcome to the deep dive. Today we're going to be looking at something kind of fundamental, how things in life that seem like opposites, how they actually work together. You've got a bunch of really cool ideas to unpack with you all today. We've got reflections on how to enjoy life, but also just survive. We've got the whole concept of hope, and then we're also going to look at some pretty big philosophical ideas from the universe to our own feelings and emotions, and even the concept of ruthlessness.
Yeah, and what we're trying to do today is really figure out how to make sense of all these different things that kind of pull us in different directions, and hopefully give you some practical ways to think about how to live a more meaningful life.
So let's just jump right in. Have you ever thought about how things that seem totally opposite might actually need each other in order to to make sense? We're going to start with that exact idea. The balance between enjoying life and survival. One of the sources we're looking at today really digs into this. It says that life's not just about getting by, like having food and shelter and safety, but it's also about experiencing joy, connecting with other people, being creative, like all of that.
Yeah, and what I think is so smart about this source is that it talks about survival as being like the foundation, the bedrock for a life that's full of enjoyment. So
Yeah.
like, if you think about it, if your basic needs are met, you're going to have a lot more mental and emotional space to go after the things that really matter to you.
Right. So it's like you need a solid base before you can reach for anything more.
Right.
That totally makes sense to me. I mean, if you're always worried about like where you're going to get your next meal or if you're even safe, it's going to be pretty hard to focus on being creative or like building deep relationships. But the source also mentions the other side of that coin, right? Like if you only focus on surviving, then life can feel kind of empty, even if you have all your basic needs covered.
Yeah, for sure. Enjoyment isn't just like an extra or something. It's essential. It gives you passion, it makes your experiences better, and it even makes you stronger when you face problems.
Hmm.
The point is these two things, survival and enjoyment, they're not fighting each other. They actually work together to make a life that's worth living.
So how does understanding this balance, how can that be useful for our listener? Someone who wants to get the most out of life without wasting time.
Well, when you feel like you're being pulled in a million directions, you should stop and think. Are you taking care of yourself? Your health, your money, but also are you doing things that make you happy? Things that fulfill you, like maybe you're spending too much time on one and not enough on the other. When you see how both are important, it helps you to find a better balance.
Like a plant, right? It needs strong roots, but it also needs sunlight.
Exactly.
It's
Oh,
like creating this cycle where feeling secure allows for more enjoyment, and that enjoyment then gives you the energy and strength to handle the survival stuff.
I like that.
All right, so we've talked about finding balance in our everyday lives. Now let's talk about hope. We have another source that talks about how important hope is, especially when things get rough.
Oh, yeah. This piece on hope is so powerful. It talks about hope being like a light in the dark. That thread that connects you to your dreams? It's like an anchor that keeps you steady when things are stormy. What I really love is how it describes hope as this quiet voice inside you that just keeps pushing you forward even when everything feels uncertain.
Yeah, that quiet voice part really stood out to me too. It's not like someone yelling at you to do something. It's more like a gentle nudge. It's that feeling that things can get better.
Yeah.
And it's like a lifeline when you're feeling really down. It reminds you that things can change, that things can get brighter. Right? And it fuels your dreams. Even a tiny bit of hope can light a fire in you or give you the strength to take the next step when you feel stuck. And for those of you listening who are all about using your time wisely, understanding hope is something you can benefit from right away. It's that instant boost, that change in perspective that reminds you that problems don't last forever and that a better future is possible. It's like having a reserve of energy that you can use when you need it most.
So it's kind of like this resource you have inside you that can help you keep going even when you feel drained.
Yeah, I like that.
Okay, so we've looked at the need for balance and the importance of hope. Now let's get a little more philosophical. Another one of our sources has this quote that really got me thinking. It says, "Kid, I may not be a demonic cultivator and don't understand your way, but all paths lead to the truth, the day. That at least I do know. Even on the emotionless and cruel path, you need to feel first before you can squash your emotions."
There's a lot to unpack there.
Definitely. I think what's really interesting here is how it connects with this idea of the Tao. The Tao is like this big principle that kind of runs everything in reality. It's always moving and changing. And the idea that all paths lead to the truth, the Tao, means that there are a lot of different ways to see and understand the world. We could all get to the same place, even if we take different routes.
Like a bunch of rivers flowing into the same ocean.
Exactly. It's like saying there isn't just one right way to understand things.
Right. And it also means being open-minded, right? Not
Mhm.
being stuck in one way of thinking and being willing to see things from different perspectives, even if those perspectives seem really different from your own.
Yeah, and that connects to this idea of the Tao. It's about seeing the bigger picture and understand that even things that seem totally opposite might actually be part of the same truth. But then the quote gets even more interesting. It starts talking about emotions. It says that even on a path that seems emotionless and cruel, like the path of a demonic cultivator, we can think of that as someone who is really ruthless and obsessed with power. Even on that path, you have to feel emotions before you can get rid of them.
So you can't just ignore your feelings.
Right. The source is saying that to really get rid of your emotions, you have to first understand them. You have to feel all the different emotions, the happy ones, the sad ones, the angry ones, so that you can really know what they are
Hmm.
and maybe then move past them. It's saying that if you just try to shut your emotions off without understanding them, it won't really work.
Like trying to turn off an alarm without knowing why it went off in the first place?
Exactly. You can't really control something that you don't understand. So the source is saying that the best way to deal with your emotions is to face them head on, figure them out. And through those experiences, you'll become wiser and
You'll
stronger.
be able to see things more clearly.
Exactly. And it also makes you more empathetic. You realize that even people who seem really tough or heartless still have emotions just like everyone else. And it's like a warning sign that tells us not to deny these fundamental human experiences. We need to understand them.
Right.
And then the source talks about how important it is to actually experience things in order to truly understand them. Like you can't just read about emotions in a book. You have to feel them yourself.
You have to live them.
Exactly. You have to connect these big ideas to your own life to make them real and lasting. And when you really engage with life, with all the good and bad it throws at you, you start to feel a sense of awe at how complex and beautiful it all is.
Yeah. And you also realize that you don't know everything. There's always more to learn.
Definitely.
Yeah.
So for our listener who loves those aha moments and seeing things from different angles, this is really giving you a new way to think about personal growth and understanding yourself and others.
Yeah, it gives you a lot to think about. Okay, so now let's move on to our last source, which talks about ruthlessness and emotion. It also looks at how understanding evil can actually help you understand righteousness.
This source picks up on that idea that we need to experience emotions to truly understand them. It asks this really interesting question. If someone says they're ruthless, but they've never actually felt emotions, can they really be ruthless? Like, are they just pretending? The source argues that true ruthlessness isn't just about not caring about other people. It's about making a choice to ignore or overcome your natural feelings of empathy. And if you've never actually felt those emotions, then you can't really make a choice about whether or not to ignore them.
It's like that line, if you never had it, how can you lose it?
Right. So in terms of emotions, if you've never actually felt a certain emotion, then the idea of losing it doesn't really make sense. You never had it in the first place. The source is saying that people who haven't experienced certain emotions might see the world differently. They might be detached in a way that has both good and bad sides to it. It's different from someone who has felt deeply and then chosen a different path.
It's like starting with a blank page. But then the source goes on to talk about how understanding evil can help you understand righteousness. It's like they define each other.
Yeah, that's really important. It's saying that we often understand what's good and right by comparing it to what we see as bad or wrong. And it connects back to our earlier talk about survival and enjoyment. Just like knowing what it's like to struggle can make you appreciate the good times even more. Knowing what's evil can help you really understand what it means to be righteous.
So it's about seeing the whole picture, right? Not just focusing on one side.
Exactly. Life is full of these seemingly opposite forces. And if we can understand how they're connected, it helps us see things more clearly.
Yeah, and this source asks us to think about something. How does knowing what you don't want in life help you figure out what you do want? It's like when you compare things, you can see your own values more clearly.
Yeah.
So as we wrap up this deep dive, what are some of the main things we've learned from looking at all these different sources?
Well, we've seen how balance is key in so many areas of life. Like finding that sweet spot between surviving and thriving and understanding how good and evil are kind of connected. And we talked about how hope can keep you going even when things are tough. And then on a more philosophical level, we saw how you can't really understand something until you've experienced it, especially when it comes to emotions.
Right, and we tried to connect all these different ideas in a way that makes sense and hopefully helped you to have some of those aha moments along the way.
Yeah, exactly. And even though these sources might seem different at first glance when you look at them together, they actually paint a pretty complete picture of what it means to be human.
So to finish up this deep dive, I'm going to leave you with a final thought. Think about this. If opposite forces are really connected, like we've been talking about, what seemingly contradictory things in your own life, maybe different goals or values or even emotions, could actually be helping you understand yourself and the world in a deeper way?
That's a great question.
Something to think about. Thanks for joining us on this deep dive.
Thanks, everyone.
See you next time.